The Great Housing Reset for Phoenix, Arizona, or maybe the entire country for 2026, guys. What does that mean? Now, there are people that are actually calling what is about to happen here in 2026 the Great Housing Reset. And why would that be the case? I mean, until we get affordability under control, housing is going to continue to be a problem here for first-time homebuyers and transaction counts and things moving along. So, guys, we are going to dive in today here on what that means for maybe yourself as a new home buyer, or maybe if you're a home seller, is now going to be a good time to sell, or maybe will I have the opportunity to do so here in 2026? Because maybe you held out this year. Maybe you're not in the perfect house that you want to live in today, but you don't want to sell because you have a low interest rate on your mortgage and, well, things aren't that affordable. And so I don't want to trade one good thing, even though I financially, I have a house I really don't like, for the house of my dreams and pay a lot more. So that is the dilemma that most Americans sit in here as we wrap up 2025 here in just a couple of weeks, guys. And we're going to dive into what that means. Why is it defined as possibly the Great Housing Reset coming up, which means typically opportunity in 2026 and some development, guys. Did you know data centers are just popping up like mushrooms all over the place? I mean, maybe not so much in the desert because mushrooms don't grow that wild in the desert, but you know what I'm saying, because data centers are becoming very popular and have been here over the last year or two in the Phoenix area, and they are not slowing down. So we're going to cover that. And is it good or is it bad? Guys, if you have any comments or thoughts, questions on any of this, please put them in the chat. We will answer them live and we'll do our best for that, guys. And if you could put in where you're watching from, it's always good to see. I see some of y'all on the screen here today, and I appreciate you tuning in. We're not going to waste your time. We're going to go fast. We're going to go hard. We're going to give you some good data that you can go to the bank with, okay? Literally on your mortgage potentially. And we're going to get rock and roll. And we'll be done here in 20, 30 minutes, and we'll get you out about your day, guys. I hope you're having a great December. And if you have not gone Christmas shopping yet, like me, it's bad. I know. I'm going to go probably buy some properties, buy some stuff here today, or maybe tomorrow. And shipping will be probably abnormally large because I waited to the last second. Is that what you do too? Let me know if you do. Make me feel better about myself. All right. Okay, guys, we're going to jump in here. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to rock and roll on what that housing reset really means at the end of the day. So this is an article by Yahoo Finance here that they picked it up and kind of written by Fortune, actually, magazine. And it was written by them, and Yahoo Finance picked it up. But guys, look at the headline. A new era in the housing market is about to begin as affordability finally improves for the first time in a bunch of years, an economist says. It finally improves. Does it feel to you like it finally improved? Do you feel like homes are all of a sudden affordable? What are your thoughts on that? Because this guy's saying it finally improved. Or maybe he's saying it has over time. We just don't see it yet. And he makes an interesting point as to why the housing market might be in play for someone to maybe get a decent deal now in 2026. And here's what he goes on to say. Okay, he goes on to say that home sales, prices are now becoming more favorable towards house hunters, a trend that should continue in 2026 and change the narrative in the housing market. What in the world? Okay, this is getting good. Here we go. In the next era, the story flips. So sales are starting to move higher, but prices are capped or maybe down. Sales move higher, okay? Not meaning like necessarily a ton of appreciation, but there's more housing sales, right? But prices are capped or maybe down. Incomes are rising faster than prices. So affordability improves for the first time in a bunch of years, Simonson told CNBC on Friday. It's not a dramatic improvement, but it's a start of a new era. Now, what era is he talking about? Well, I'm going to go on a limb here and say he's talking about this. Now, listen close. There's an article here from Statista.com. House prices outpace income growth for the past 40 years. Okay, we all kind of know that's the case, but let's dive into the purple right here. Looking at prices and income alone, houses have gradually become less affordable over the past 40 years. We kind of all know that. In 1985, the median household income in the U.S. was $23,620. The median price of new houses sold was $84,300. That is a 3.6 times the median income when it comes to housing prices. All right, that's interesting. So where do we stand today? Well, in 2000, the ratio of homes to a median income reached 4. 4 or higher, right? Not 3.6 for the first time. And by 2023, just 23 years later, it had climbed to 5.3 times. Between 85 and 23, the median household income in the U.S. grew 241% to 80,610 in nominal terms. The median price of houses sold in the country climbed a whopping 408% over the same period. It doubled up. Guys, hear me when I'm talking. Guys, listen. We know it's out of whack, okay? In that same time period from 85 to 23, median income grew substantially, which is phenomenal. But housing prices doubled up that growth. And there we have the conundrum we're all sitting in today. But what this economist is saying is that in 2026, and really towards the end of 2025, that's why he's saying that, you have wage growth in most places across America for the first time, finally starting to outpace or outgrow home appreciation. Why? Well, because of the past year or 18, really 2 months, at least in Phoenix, I can only speak for Phoenix, home appreciation has been very, very, very modest. Now, if you take in 2022, like say July, June of 2022, it is even more so modest. And here's what I mean. Look at the median income here, guys, from 2022 in the Phoenix area. We cover this a lot. We're going to cover it again. Don't worry about the spike here. We'll talk about that in a second, but that's $450,000 right there. Okay. That's the end of November with a large sample size of 4,951 homes that recorded escrow in Maricopa County. It's a lot of homes. Big sample size ranging from $4,500. Have no clue what that is. That must be some sort of fractional ownership deal. Okay, up to 13.3 million on a home sale. Okay, but look where it was in May of 2022, guys. It went from 480 all the way down to 415. Okay, so if you take it if you measure it from mid 2022 through today, we are still negative. If you want to go that route. Now, if you take it from January 23, we're up obviously from 415 to 450. That's a pretty decent incline, but it's fairly modest overall. Now, if you average it out from the 480 all the way down, again, we're talking modest growth. So that being said, you have wage growth that is starting to increase. Now, let's go back to this article because here you go. Since 1985, there's the same graph, okay? Look at the home price outpacing median income household, okay? Household income, right? So look, it goes from the blue is obviously the house. It's a 5.3 times delta. That is the problem. That is the problem. So where do we stand today? Well, let's go back to our chart right here. If we're at 450, okay, because look, guys, 481 is a huge spike. That means median home price in Phoenix went up from 450 to 481 over the past, let's see, 16 days in December. Which, guys, I'm not hanging my hat on that. That's an outlier. Let's be clear. I don't believe that. We have a lot in the luxury home market that I know the median home price does not get affected a ton by the luxury home market like average home price does, but that's a big spike. Now, let's see where it ends at the end of the month. Now, at the end of the month, if it ends up being up there, then that's what it is. That's the recording for the end of the month with a large sample size. But right now, we're only halfway through the month, so that spike may not last. But let's go with 450. Guys, if you go to 450, okay, and you look, okay, what is the median home sale price in Phoenix? It's 450. Now, let's go to what is the current median household income in Arizona, in Phoenix specifically, and it's $77,000. So now if you take $77,000 and you divide it into that $450,000 for the median home price, guys, that is a 5.8 times percent delta, which blows this chart right here out of the water. We just showed you of the 5.3 times. Okay, we're talking 5.8 times wage growth to current house prices, guys. So that is more than what that currently has been recorded in 2023 for Phoenix. But we are stating, the economist is stating that in Phoenix, wage growth actually may continue to grow, where housing prices and that growth of housing prices just maintains a nominal increase, if any at all, for 2026. So I looked up some numbers here, and let's look at where it currently stands in Phoenix. Okay, here's wage growth. Okay, this is wage and salaries according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. And here is total compensation. Now, Phoenix is not at the top of this list, but it's towards the top because, guys, there's a lot more cities across America than just these cities listed here on this article, okay? A lot more cities. So you have Miami leading the way, which is great. So that means if housing prices are somewhat stagnant in Miami or Seattle or Houston or Chicago, the top four, then that is good because obviously the wage or compensation for income is going up the most in those four cities, okay? Now, as you go down the list, you have Phoenix coming in at, what number is that, guys? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 14th. Okay, guys, I'm sorry for the 6, 7 reference, but I have kids and it's all they talk about. It's wild. Do your kids talk about 6, 7 a lot? I don't know. Anyways, Phoenix comes in at 14. Okay, guys, it's still a positive wage growth. There are plenty of places across America now that don't experience this currently. Total compensation comes in at a growth over 3%. Okay, measured up to September of 2025. Okay, so wage growth is increasing in Phoenix. Is home prices increasing at 3%? Okay, well, if you take the home price and you measure it, from, let's see here, let's go to 2025 in January. Boom, boom, right there. We're at 457 on the median home sale price. Now, if you take out that spike to 481, because again, we're mid-month, and so we'll see where that ends up towards the end of December. But if you take that out and you go median home price to 450, that last time I checked, 450 is less than 457. So technically, if 450 is probably the median home price, and that's where this spike ends up returning to, then you're at negative on the home price appreciation, but yet you are at wage growth of over 3% for Phoenix alone, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, this article here also kind of backs that up because you look at wages and time worked here. This is for Arizona, okay? Arizona private sector workers are now earning an average of 34.63 an hour compared to 33.21 a year ago. That's up 4.3% when it comes to the hourly, okay? Nationally, this is interesting, the average hourly wage was up 3.7% year over year. So Arizona is actually beating the national by just about a half a point or so, okay? As of the latest inflation data for June, real wages are up 4% in the state compared to just 1% for the U.S. as a whole, okay? So that is interesting. But since April of 2020, all right, real inflation adjusted wages in Arizona have declined 4.3% because inflation, unfortunately, was a problem. And in Arizona, it was a big problem. So, guys, did you hear? That's the problem. That's the crux of the matter. Inflation getting under control. Why? Because you heard what it said. Wages are up in Arizona over 3%, according to the BLS. But if you actually take real wages compared to the inflation number, now, then it's negative 4.3. But we are also not taking into consideration other inflationary data in that scenario. So let's just assume for a second wages are up a little bit in Arizona, which overall take inflation out. And then you say, that's cool because prices in Arizona for housing technically are down according to the median home price. Now, again, if that spike for median home price actually stays higher than 450, then that's what it'll be at the end of December. But let's wait till the end of the month to see where that records because that is a pretty large spike. Overall, the Crawford Market Index, where is that stand, guys? Well, I'm glad you asked because it's right here, 83.4. We are actually going up on the 83.4 index because last week we were at 83.1 or just under 83 at 82 and some change. So we are going up. CMI is going up. Remember, a balanced market is between 90 and 110. So lucky for all you buyers, we are still in a buyer's market overall. Okay. Now, this is an interesting article because this points out the annual sales rate in the Crawford report. Annual sales rate. Now, what they make this whole dissertation up here is about comparing annual numbers compared to monthly numbers. Why? Because months can actually swing data and be a little inaccurate from time to time. Why? Because you have one month that has 28 days in February, and you have other months like July, that's 31 days. And that is like a 20+% swing in data when it comes to the amount of days in a year, especially working days, right? Okay, so the Crawford report is making the argument that we should look at annual sales rate when taking all data into consideration, which I'm cool with. And what they're saying are these 4 takeaways right here, okay? That's what we're going to focus on here in the next 1 minute. We can see by this data the scale of the decline in transaction counts from the peak of June of 2021 as to the trough of August, September 24. Right down here, right, is when we had the least amount of home sale transactions taking place in the Phoenix area. There was a brief bounce back from the trough in October through December 24. Okay, little bounce back. See that little bounce back right here? And guys, look what we have right here. We have a little bounce back in the last 2 months of 2025 as well. Interesting, right? Interesting going into the holidays. The annual sales were distressingly flat between December 24 and August of 25. This is true. The year of 2025 was not kind to a lot of people in the real estate industry. Okay. The last 3 months have given us hope. Let me repeat that. The last 3 months have given us hope. Signs of life as we move towards or from 67,000 annual transactions to nearly 69,000 sales per year. It is a long way back to normal, but at last we are moving solidly in that direction. Okay, now what was normal? Well, guys, let's be clear. 2021 was not normal. Okay, so 105,000 transactions in a year is not normal. Let's be very, very clear about that. But I would say you go back to here and you're looking at 87,000, 85,000, right in there would be about normal. Maybe up, you could even say 90,000 is normal any given normal year. And we're at 68,000, guys. What does that mean? That means that to get to a normal rate, we're talking another 20-ish thousand home sales happening in the course of a year. Divide that out by 12 months. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to do it really fast because I am curious now. But that is another 1,600 home sales each and every month in 2026 if we get back to normal. Now, I don't know that we're going to be back to normal. I just don't think that's going to be the case. Are we going to see 85 to 90,000 home sales in 2026? I don't think so. But I do believe that all of these smart people are onto something to say there's a great housing reset set to happen in 2026, simply meaning that you're going to have wage growth continuing to do just that and grow in a positive direction in 2026 due to all the economic conditions, especially in Phoenix. And housing prices are flat in most places across America. Okay. Some are up a percentage point or two, some are down a percentage point too, but roughly speaking, just kind of ho-hum and flat. But if I share my screen, let me show you, speaking of Arizona, what the forecast is for Arizona Outlook. Oh, there it is. Arizona Outlook right there. How about that? How convenient is that? Here's what they say at AZ Big Media. It says that the U.S. economy continues to grow. The baseline forecast calls for Arizona income, job, and population growth to accelerate in the next year. The forecast calls for state job growth to decelerate modestly in 2025 from the already slow gains of 2024. The picture brightens next year with job gains expected to rise from 0.8% in 25 to 1.6% job gains in 26 and, of course, 1.5 in 27. With job growth rising modestly, the unemployment rate is expected to increase a bit as well, from 4.1% in 25 to 4.4% in 26. Okay. Nominal personal income growth slows from 5.9% last year to 4.8%. This is what we're experiencing in 2025, then rising again to 5.7%. So if you do the math on that, that is almost a percentage point increase in personal income growth projected for 2026, guys. And this is Arizona. This is not nationally. This is local, our local market. So hopefully we have some personal income growth, and then overall wage growth will be higher than that. But population growth remains roughly steady during the next couple of years at call it 1.3 to 1.4% per year. Guys, we know population plays a huge role in a local economy and economic growth overall. And so having population increasing, which is huge for Phoenix, Arizona, is going to be a big thing to watch. And they're predicting it to be up in Arizona, personal wage growth or income to be up in Arizona, as well as wage growth as well in 2026. Combine that with maybe some flat price appreciation or prices overall in Maricopa County, and you have a reset of hopefully buyer expectations saying, you know what, this is kind of the new norm. I probably not going to see a big crash. You're seeing unemployment that is projected to rise from 4.1 to 4.4 a little bit, but you're also seeing job growth start to rise as well. So, this is interesting. Overall jobs being created going up, but a little bit bigger of a number of people unemployed overall. So this will be interesting. So kind of a lackluster, a lot to stuff the status quo next year that's happening currently as we stand. So guys, it's interesting to see. I think you're going to see, because of that, combined with rates continuing to possibly come down, you might see people say, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and jump in and make that move in 2026. We'll see. But speaking of interest rates, you have interest rates currently dropping down from where they were last week to 6.27%. You see a steady decline right here going down, 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 down overall to 6.27%. Guys, you know the Fed dropped the federal funds rate again last week. And although the 30-year fixed or mortgage rates are not tied directly to the federal funds overnight borrowing rate, they are affected indirectly. And in this case, they came down a smidge more. This is good. A lot of people are stating and projecting that the interest rates will be obviously around 6% for the first half of 2026, and maybe even a 5 in front of that with a 0.9 after it or something like that by the end of the year. We'll see. We don't know. Now, let's talk about data centers for a second, guys. I'm going to pivot here from the housing market to some development because the data center thing is very interesting. It is a controversial subject, and a lot of people, especially in Arizona say we don't want them here. Why? Because data centers, they take some resources, some natural resources when they're up and running, like energy. Where does energy come from? Well, it comes from a lot of different ways, but it also takes some water resources. Okay, and energy could come from solar, could come from coal, burning coal, come from things that are fossil fuel type activities. It could also come from the more green aspects of powering the data centers. But regardless, it takes a ton of energy. It emits heat in the atmosphere, which is again people don't love. And so in Phoenix, they are starting to pop up all over the place, and this is great for job creation. This is great for our local economy when it comes to running, creating jobs and money getting injected into the local economy for other businesses that are not part of the data center or industrial commercial aspect to benefit from as well. But the environment aspect is what has other people on the other side of the fence saying, no mas, no more. But nonetheless, here we go. Maricopa County approves rezoning for proposed $25 billion data center hub. And where is this going to be at? Okay, well, here are the overall highlights. Maricopa County approved this rezoning in the 2,000-acre Hassayampa Ranch Data Center. Now, investors expect to pour $25 billion into the project. There's a local economic effect that's going to take place here. Buckeye reversed opposition after wildlife connectivity assurances were made. Okay, again, a big thing. Now, apparently these were made, and so the natural environment will continue to be unaffected, supposedly, and so therefore they are approved by the city of Buckeye. But how much of this had to do with money? That's always the question to ask, right? About almost anything that is moving forward with some sort of thing that changes the natural environment. But nonetheless, it's moving forward. And where is this being built at in the future? Well, it's being built way out in Buckeye, and I'm glad you asked. I pulled up a map for you right here, ready to go. See this little dot, this little red, right here. The Hassayampa Ranch is right here. There's that red border of this land. And by the way, there's Tartesso, which is a huge master plan community that's still being built out as we speak, but it's in the middle of nowhere to an extent, right? There is the White Tank Mountains right here. And here is I-10 running out to LA. And you're on the west side of the White Tank Mountains, which is still the city of Buckeye. Guys, Buckeye is large. Did you know? City of Buckeye, AZ. The boundaries of Buckeye are huge. Guys, look at this. Google's going to give me the boundaries here. There they are. Look at that, guys. Look at Phoenix compared to Buckeye. It is the second largest town in the entire state of Arizona. Not by population, by any stretch of the imagination, but by landmass, guys, behind Phoenix. So that is a large area extending all the way up behind the White Tank Mountains. So that's where the Buckeye Ranchos, which is right there, is going to go. So a big data center going there, guys. And there are data centers all across, speaking of the map here, the West Valley primarily. Now, there's some in the East Valley too, but out here at Litchfield Park, Northern Parkway, that runs all the way out to the 303, connects it to the 101. That is Data Center Alley or Industrial Complex Alley with a lot of storage industrial buildings being built along that route right here, then down to 303 and then over the I-10 out to LA. So guys, that is a big thing. What do you think about these data centers, guys? I would love to know what your thoughts are. Are you for or against it? Do you want the local economy to benefit from these things, or would you rather say no, not the juice is not worth the squeeze, get them out of here? But they're not. I mean, right now they're not, but I'd like to see your point, because maybe if you get a lot of people commenting, maybe the powers that be, if they are tagged or see this video, might listen. Who knows? Probably a long shot, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, even if you're watching the replay. Okay. Now, a couple more things, guys, and we are wrapping this edition of YouTube Live Everything Phoenix up. Okay. Phoenix. I don't want to do this. What is American Airlines doing here? I don't want to do this. Okay, there we go. Here we go. Phoenix, cost of living much lower than surrounding suburbs, new study finds. Okay. So, guys, check this out. Did you know that Phoenix annual cost of living is $52,000 a year, 65% less than neighboring Scottsdale to the east? Okay. Gilbert residents save $58,000 annually despite higher living costs. That's intriguing. Phoenix is ranked 10th among 25 major U.S. metropolitan areas across America, of course, right? The cost of living in Phoenix is $52,000 compared to $56,000 in Tempe and $63,000 in Gilbert. But it's really cheap compared to $87,000 living in Scottsdale. Okay, Scottsdale is more of the higher end area in the Northeast Valley. It's not the highest real estate, or the most expensive in the city. That award is reserved for Paradise Valley, but Scottsdale is not cheap, especially in some parts of the city. Okay, and so if you're looking for a place that is fairly still affordable to live, Phoenix is still one of them, guys. Despite the housing increasing dramatically over the past 4 to 5 years, Phoenix is still one of those major cities. Okay, Phoenix also came in at 62.7% lower than Arizona's average annual cost of living of $86,000. Why? Because other places across Arizona are actually more expensive to live, not even attached to the Phoenix area. Okay. The Grand Canyon State ranked 36th overall for cheapest places to live in the country. Based on that separate study by Go Bank Rates, the lowest cost of living index in Arizona was health at 92.7, and the highest was housing at 131. Guys, hear what I said. A lot of people actually come to Arizona that are retirement or of the age of being retired, if they're not retired. And healthcare is very important. Now, we have the Mayo Clinic here in Arizona, which is one of 3 spots across America for arguably the best institution for healthcare in our country, the Mayo Clinic. And not only do we have a Mayo Clinic, we have a Mayo Hospital campus, which is huge and still expanding. That is located right here in the Scottsdale/Phoenix area. The other 2 are in Rochester, Minnesota, and Jacksonville, Florida. So we have a big, really, really good healthcare system, and the affordability of the healthcare is cheap. The lowest index of all the things you could rate cost of living on in any city in America, healthcare is one of them, and came in at 92.7, which the average in America is at 100 in any city. Okay, housing, we are the highest at 131. Average in America, 100. So again, it's not going to be the cheapest place to live. But overall, Phoenix is still a great, affordable place to live, especially in some of the suburbs in certain parts of the valley. Okay. Now, I'm going to share my screen and show you one more fun article. Okay. I don't know how many of you guys watch the show. I don't. But I saw the headline. I'm like, this is interesting. Let me read more about this. So the Real Housewives, which is like drama central, and guys, there's one thing I don't like in my life, and it's drama. I'll just be honest with you. Now, it's, I guess, kind of fun to, when you're having a long day, you just want to veg out for 20 minutes on the couch, whatever, to just watch this. But I can't watch 20 minutes. I maybe get 20 seconds. I'm like, I can't do this. Okay. But Real Housewives of Beverly Hills to air at Arizona Historic Mansion in early 2026, guys. And why it isn't because of the show I pulled this up. It's because if you have not been to this historic hotel in Jerome, Arizona, I highly recommend that you do it. Little Daisy Jerome venue featured in Real Housewives in 2026. Okay. Now, it was originally built for miners that were mining a factory, or what do you call it? A factory? I don't know, a factory. There in Arizona back in the early 1900s. Okay. Now, it is beautiful historic site that a lot of events happen. But guys, did you know that this place is actually considered to be haunted? Okay. There's a lot of people won't go there because they don't want anything to do with, paranormal activity, but supposedly it's haunted because of multiple deaths that happened there back in the 1900s, early 1900s, that supposedly still haunt these halls and walk these halls at night, according to people who have studied this with their little, fancy machines, and just flat out people who are just saying that's the case. But it's not cheap. And if you want a little excitement in your life, and maybe you want to see if you hear some noises at night when you're sleeping, I don't know who's up for that. But if you are, that's a great place to go visit. Maybe you go visit at dusk or as late as you can go before they close and see if you get some action. I don't know. I'm going to pass on that, but some of you guys are more thrill seekers than I am. What's up? Sword of Christ Ministries. Has the homeless situation calmed down? Thanks for the comment. Thanks for the question. It has, yes, but it's still there. So it's not gone, unfortunately. But it has gotten better. Matter of fact, it's funny because, well, not funny, but my wife was actually taking our daughter down to a volleyball. This is real talk, guys. You don't get this if you're just, poking around the internet. My wife was taking my daughter to a volleyball tournament she had this past weekend at the Phoenix Convention Center downtown. And the truth of the matter is that where she had the park, which actually kind of far away, wasn't like right next door or whatever, but there were some homeless people and camped out, on one of the streets she's walking down. Now it is kind of situated. They're kind of situated in one area of downtown, so to speak. It's not like all over the place and super prevalent like it is in other cities like LA or San Diego or San Francisco. Sorry, California. But it's still there. And but it has gotten better. And the good thing is there has been multiple times that has happened in Arizona here where the homeless situation was inhibiting, let's say, a local business because they set up camp outside of this business on a street or whatever. And the local judicial system did not play, which is nice to see. Judges, they said you got to clean it up, and they made the whole situation get cleaned up. They probably moved elsewhere, but it moved away from the place that was being affected as a local business. So that is good. They don't kind of, take forever to solve those problems, although it is government, so it takes a little bit of time. But compared to most, it's one of the better places across, I would say, America for a major city, but it's still there. Hopefully that answers your question. I love that handle, Swords of Christ Ministries. Would love to know more about that, actually. Shoot me a DM. All right, guys, that wraps up our version of, guys, we only have one more left. This is it of 2025. We will be into that great reset of 2026, quite possibly. So we are going to have a YouTube live next Tuesday. We're talking Tuesday, December 23rd. We will be live at the same bat channel, 4 p.m. local, right here. I will see you guys with another great article. And guys, that episode that we're going to do next week probably will have something to do with some predictions and an outlook economically. Not the housing. We do a lot of housing market stuff. We'll probably pivot a little bit, talk about maybe some development things that are happening on the front, if I can find the right research and articles to discuss with you guys so you know what to expect from that standpoint in our wonderful city of Phoenix, Arizona. So until next week, it's not Merry Christmas quite yet, okay? Keep your nose to the grindstone and let's finish out this year strong. And until next week, keep it classy, Phoenix. We'll see you then.